It's episode 18, and we're going to talk about the biggest buzzword in AI this year, which is agentic AI. What does it mean to be an AI agent? Well, to be considered an agent, you need to have goal-directed behavior, environmental interaction, autonomy, temporal coherence, and learning and adaptation. That's a lot. If you think about modern day LLM-based agents, they kind of barely meet threshold status for environmental interaction because they don't interact very much with their environment. They have some goal-directed behavior, very little learning and adaptation, some autonomy depending on the tools that are provided at their disposal, and some temporal coherence depending on the memory bank provided to them. But they are kind of at that threshold level of agent requirements at this point. The big thing about LLM-based agents is tools. So we have large language models, which we've done a whole episode on, but now we're talking about LLM-based agents, and the big addition here is the addition of tools. And important to note, these are software-based tools, and so we're just giving them software tools at their disposal. So here is an example. If we wanted to go out and build a fitness coach, these are the different tools that we might have. So we have our LLM. We are going to give it goals via a prompt. We have tools to fetch user historical data. So things like workouts the user has done before, maybe recipes they've tried, feedback on these workouts and recipes. We might have a tool to search a database of workouts. So this might be a general large database that we have of different workouts that might be interesting. We have a database of healthy recipes. We might have a tool for calendar integration. So we have an API that goes and grabs what their calendar looks like over the next week. We might have a tool for exercise logging, where we have a database and we just add, if a user says, hey, I did an exercise, we just add that to a database. So let's look at a couple of flows and see what this would look like behind the scenes. So I call this application FitBud. It says, hello, I'm your fitness buddy. What are you up to today? And you as a user says, I've decided to run a 10K in 2 months. Can you help me put together a plan? An ideal situation would be if FitBud said that based on your calendar, it looks like 7:30 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is free. I put together a workout plan for a 10K based on 3 times a week for 8 weeks. And then it gives you a plan that you can then download. So what would this look like behind the scenes? So we have that tool bank of tools that we already talked about. And so at the first level, I have a large language model. And I'm going to give the large language model this goal. It's to choose a tool based on the user query. And so whatever the user queries, the LLM should say, okay, which tools should I use? And then we have these tools. Calendar integration is a software tool. A tool to search a database of workouts, that's just a software tool, a query to a database. We have a tool to fetch user historical data, which is also just a query to a database. And so the LLM would ideally choose these tools for this particular application. We're going to give the output of these tools, which, remember, the LLM isn't running these tools. Your software platform is running these tools based on the LLM saying to run these tools. And then these tools run, and the outputs of these tools are provided to another LLM. And this LLM, you give the goal, and you say, based on the tool output, provide an answer to the user. All right, how about continuing this flow? Maybe I say, I want to start a little slower. Can you adjust? And FitBud would ideally say, here's your updated plan, starting a little slower. How's this? Click here to download the plan. So here, what I would want is I still have my LLM with the same goals to choose the tools, but now my LLM should choose different tools. It should search a database of workouts, and then it should fetch my user historical data and provide that to the second LLM in my system. And the second LLM is going to actually be the one that provides the answer to the user. Similarly, if I tell FitBud that I ran 5 miles today, I want it to log that. So FitBud should say, awesome work. I've logged your 5 miles today. That is 16 for the week. You are crushing your 10K training plan. So the tools here would be an exercise logging tool where it adds that exercise to a database. And then maybe it also fetches user historical data like workouts to provide a more robust response that it then gives to that second LLM that provides the answer to the user. If you ask it, can you help me figure out what to eat tonight? It says, 2 weeks ago, you loved the pesto basil pasta with sweet potatoes. Want to give that a go again? And then it provides the recipe. Tools it should choose here include a database of healthy recipes, and then it should fetch the user historical data like recipes and feedback on recipes. And it's important to keep in mind that this is all being done on a software level. So the large language model itself is not actually running the tools. The LLM, you can think of it as the brain, and then the software tools itself, these are like the body, right, that is actually interacting with its environment, because the LLM isn't actually deploying this tool. Okay, so what does this look like? So this looks like a lot of different things. We could also do something different. So I've shown you kind of one way that you could go about this. There are many different ways that you could string LLMs together with different tools. This is another one. If we could have an LLM router that chooses another LLM based on a user query, and this LLM, we would have then 4 LLMs for each of these different, kind of tasks or topics, and then tools that are provided to each of those LLMs. And so you call that LLM, and then it runs the specific tools. And then it provides a response. You could also add another LLM in the loop to synthesize all of this information from all of your other LLMs. So based on responses from these other LLMs, it's going to synthesize a response and give a nice response. You could also add in a quality assurance LLM in the pipeline to actually assess the quality of the response. So it could say, based on the original user's query, does this actually answer it? And if it doesn't, then it sends it all the way back to the beginning. So, in a nutshell, LLM-based agents are really powerful software-based tools that use large language models as kind of a brain to try to figure out which tool should be used, and then also be that conversational piece that talks to the user. Thank you for joining me for this episode in the AI for People Who Hate Math series. This is an unscripted series that is inspired by my conversations with people who feel like they can't conceptually understand AI because it's just too much math. And it usually is. Most AI classes, tutorials, and videos are full of math. The AI classes that I teach as a professor have math on nearly every slide. I wanted to challenge this assumption that AI could only be conceptualized by people with strong math backgrounds. Especially as AI permeates our daily lives, I think it's important that everyone understands the technology, at least conceptually, because without it, we're putting a lot of trust into systems we don't understand. Feel free to let me know in the comments if there are topics that you want to see covered. The initial launch is 20 episodes, and I am excited to see what you think.